Joining me now is the Executive Vice President of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft, Trita Parsi. Trita, thanks very much for being here today. What's your reaction to what you just heard?
I think there was plenty wrong in what Harris said, but I do believe that it is wise not to strike militarily, because all the evidence indicates, including the ones that the CIA has concluded, that if military strikes are conducted against Iran, it will not destroy their nuclear program. However, it will lead to them walking out of the non-proliferation treaty, throwing out all of the inspectors that actually enables us to see what's happening inside that program, and within weeks they will have the material for a bomb. So the safest and the surest way of actually ensuring that the Iranians will get a nuclear weapon is by bombing them. That's the precise reason as to why previous administrations, including Trump, did not take this action.
So what do you think would be the appropriate response to Iran from Israel at this point?
Well, first of all, I think you have to bring in the context, which is that the Israelis did attack the Iranian embassy in Damascus, did strike Tehran on the day of the inauguration of new president, despite the fact that apparently the Biden administration had urged the Israelis not to escalate. But because the Israelis have been escalating, we're now in a situation in which, unless Biden actually says no, the United States itself will get dragged into a military conflict in the region. And I think the American people knows very well the absolutely last thing we need is another war in the Middle East with absolutely no clear end in sight that the United States is fighting.
Well, I mean, how did we get there? I mean, many people say that it's a failure of this administration for having no deterrence and for ignoring the sanctions. You know, Iran's president says he reached a good understanding with Qatar this week over the $6 billion of frozen assets in Doha, despite previous assurances from the United States retaining the right to prevent Iran from accessing that money. They are going to access it. They have been accessing money. The funds were sitting in a South Korean bank from 2019 to 2023, following former President Trump's total ban on Iranian oil exports before being transferred to Doha. Last October, the Deputy Treasury Secretary confirmed that Qatar agreed to block Iran from that money. But the president, Pezeshkian's claims now are raising questions. So, Trita, I want to get your take on what we heard from the former Crown Prince of Iran. Reza Pahlavi was with me on Sunday, and he basically says, look, this is all going back to bad policy, because even though the U.S. talks about sanctions in place, they were ignored. They were never enforced. Here's Reza Pahlavi. Watch this. The sanctions have been on Iran, but were they actually enforced?
They were not, because the $100+ billion that the regime had access to a couple of years ago, closing into what happened and ultimately led to empowering it to support its proxies, including Hezbollah and Hamas, of course, didn't come from nowhere. If those oil sanctions were imposed, that would be $100 billion less for the regime to spend. Not to mention, of course, the ransom money for hostages that was also paid to the regime, about $6.5 billion, if I'm not mistaken. And so all of this money is not going to, help Iranian workers who are being not paid their salaries for a long time. Instead, it goes to support the proxies.
So, Trita, what about that? I mean, Kamala Harris just said on an interview this week that Iran is our #1 adversary. Then why have we been allowing Iran to generate these billions of dollars in oil revenue on the black market?
Well, the Biden administration tried to get back into the nuclear deal that the Trump administration walked out of. Reality is, if that deal was still in place today, we would not be seeing the situation in which the Iranian nuclear program has grown as dramatically as it has. However, I would agree with something you said earlier on. I do think that the lack of deterrence of the Biden administration is a key reason as to why we're in this current mess. But it's not because they haven't been using deterrence against Iran or Hezbollah, et cetera. Actually, the Biden administration has moved significant military assets to the region. The deterrence is that it's not actually been putting pressure on Israel as well not to escalate. And again, I want to go back to what is at the core of U.S. interests. We do not need another war that we are fighting in the Middle East. If we are not taking measures to make sure that Israel does not escalate in the region, then we will get dragged into that war. And that is exactly the plan that the Bibi Netanyahu government has in place. So we're at a precipice right now in which, unless there's some clear measures taken not only to put pressure on the Iranians and Hezbollah and Hamas, absolutely, but also on the Israelis not to escalate further. We're going to see a regional war that the United States is going to be a part of, and that is going to be an absolute disaster.
Well, I mean, aren't other major countries already a part of this? I mean, how do you fit China in there? Isn't China supporting Iran? I mean, you talk about a regional conflict. Lines are being drawn across the world. Yes, it could lead to World War III.
It certainly could. The Chinese are not involved in this. The Chinese are buying Iranian oil. The Chinese are not providing any military support for the Iranians. But I can tell you this.
But
if
they're
there
buying
is
the
a
oil.
military conflict in which the United States, they're buying the oil, but if there is a military conflict in which the United States once again drags into one of these quagmires in the Middle East, guess who the biggest winner of that will be? China.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of my points. Trita, thank you. Great insights from you. We appreciate your time. Trita Parsi this morning.